Who are you avoiding a conversation with? In the thousands of coaching sessions that I've conducted over the last few years, one of the things that is consistently common with almost every person that I work with is they have some type of a high stakes conversation that has been floating around in their head that they don't know how to have with another person. It might be keeping them up at night. It might be causing them a lot of stress. Some people might even be thinking about quitting their job or getting a divorce because they've not been able to have this high stakes conversation. And many people, I've discovered, even have a copy of Crucial Conversations on their bookshelf. It's one of the most powerful books when it comes to teaching us how to have crucial conversations. But having the tools sitting on our shelf does not mean we know how to use them. And that is where the power of experiential learning and coaching comes in, because it not only gives you a tool, but it helps you apply it to the specific situation or conversation that you might have been avoiding. Whether it's a job review where you have to give someone some difficult news, or it's a conversation about a promotion with your boss. These conversations all carry some common things. There's some emotions wrapped in them. There's something that we want as a result of that conversation. And they often feel high stakes. And often one of the things preventing us from having the conversation is a fear of being disliked or a fear of being seen in some type of a negative light. What I find is having a simple structure to complete a conversation is a powerful way to begin to have more meaningful conversations and to have these conversations sooner. Having a structure that helps us acknowledge the emotions that we're having around the conversation, why it really is an important conversation to have for us and for the other person, and then having a clean way to move through that conversation that respects the other person and yourself and creates space for the other person and for yourself to say everything that needs to be said, but to say it in a respectful manner. That's a skill. Having that structure and using it is building a skill. Throughout all of the coaching sessions that I've done and all of the books that I've read, I've created a structure and a framework called the conflict-free conversation process. And every time that I work with someone to coach them through that process, there is an easing of a burden on their shoulders. And then they go and they have the conversation. And the most common thing they say coming back is, that was easier than I thought it would be. There's 3 steps to think about before you begin planning the content of the conversation. The first is, what's the highest common goal that you and this other person share? And let me give you a hint. This isn't the way we've been taught to think about conversations. So it usually takes a time or two to get this figured out. And usually the first thing that you think it is has something directly to do with the problem, and the highest common goal usually goes way above the problem. So it's like an umbrella that you and this person could stand under together, agreeing 100% on it. The next thing we need to know is, what is your intention or desire at the outcome of this conversation? So that's very clear. And while it seems like a common sense step, it's a step many people miss. And step 3 is, we actually need to deal with your emotions about this conversation. Another common myth in communication is that emotions don't belong in conversations or in the workplace. And I'll tell you that's a myth, because emotions are there and present whether you try to acknowledge that they are or not. The emotion, that energy in motion, is what's keeping you up at night, or what's causing your stomach to gurgle and churn a little bit as you think about this conversation that you need to have. But helping you process your emotion ahead of time is vital. Emotions are absolutely valid facts and content of conversations, but they make really poor drivers of conversations. So you want to think about being in the driver's seat of the conversation. Your emotions are the passengers in there with you. Once we've done those 3 things, we're ready to start building the block or the structure of the conversation. One is, what are the facts? This is very important because a lot of times we get into opinions when we have conversations. And so we're really just looking for, what are the facts? How you felt in a situation can be a fact, but it's not how someone else made you feel, it's how you felt. So we're very careful with our language to say something like, when I heard XYZ, I felt a little bit angry and frustrated. It's not, you made me feel angry and frustrated. So we want to be careful of our language. Other facts are time, logistical things that we have data and proof that neither person is really going to argue, but they're facts that we know happened. And then step number 2 is super important. We only ever see our side of a situation, which means that the other person has a perspective and a viewpoint that we absolutely could not see by virtue of the fact that we are not them. And so we create space for them to share that viewpoint in the conversation. So that's why step number 1 of the actual conversation building is state the facts. Step number 2 is, hey, tell me what you see. What did I miss? Is there a fact that I missed? Is there something that you see that I don't see? Tell me more. And then step number 3 is negotiating an outcome. Now that we have all of the content of the conversation, what's the outcome? What can we agree on moving forward? And then step number 4 is to confirm that we've actually both agreed on the same thing that we think that we're agreeing on. And quite often it's appropriate to set a follow-up conversation so that we can commit to an action and then follow up with that in an appropriate time frame. So there is the basic outline of the conflict-free communication process. And if you are ready to delve into learning this more, or would like me to coach you through developing the structure of a conversation that feels really high stakes, please reach out. And I look forward to helping you grow your influence and impact through refining your communication.